This conference will now be recorded.
All right, as always, everything that we're going to be talking about is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. All right, so this morning, basically just like what we thought. I mean, it's almost like the market didn't open much. Most money is just kind of sitting out, waiting to see what's going to be happening with this G20 coming up this weekend. There's just not much out there at all. But we got a few things that we were looking at. So work, as we can see, there's just a huge amount of selling that keeps coming into this 3650 level. Which basically tells us, I mean, we're on a huge downtrend. But overall, I would expect it to start pulling back up a little bit. The problem is it's just not trading, just like everything else that's out there. So, we needed to pull up in order to trade it. And then obviously we would take, a trigger back towards that downside. We know how it works, but just unfortunately, like I said, I mean, you could see there's just no movement. Time and sales right now is at a dead stop, even though it does say it's trading 20,000 shares a minute. I really don't believe it at this moment based off of what we're seeing going on. It's just very, very slow. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of volume coming into there. But I wouldn't really... I wouldn't hold my breath on it just because, like I said, I mean, everything that we see going on out there, there's just no real trading. I went over our scanners before, and there's just nothing out here. I mean, Atos was, real nice trade earlier this morning after it held that 250 level like we talked about in our morning meeting. Oh, let me just explain this real quick for you guys. What I was talking about, so right here, you can see that you see this resistance point that we have here that's sitting right at basically that 280. Taking a trigger underneath that really leaves yourself vulnerable because what ends up happening and what you leave yourself open for is it going up, not hitting it, and then giving a big trigger down just like we saw here. So this first trigger, when I see a situation like this first trigger I did not take. I know Davis had asked. And I did not take this because it's literally way too close to an extremely, extremely strong resistance point. But the one that I did take after about 4 minutes after the first trigger was the one that triggered up above the consolidation. This is what I want to see. I want to see if they're going to trigger a stock, they're going to make it come, it's going to move, especially these cheaper stocks that we have buying back up above towards it. So overall, I'd rather give up this 10 cents between 270 to 280 to have a higher percentage trade getting a trigger back up above that 280 level. And then we could see from that 280 level, we ended up making a run. But it's just too damn close. So by definition, yes, this is a trigger. By definition, yes, this is a trigger. But look where it is. I mean, there's just... I don't want to say get lucky because it's not luck. We know that based off the buying that we had that there's no reason it should not break it. It's just there's no reason to jump the gun for 10 cents when there's going to be a higher percentage trade there. Because at the end of the day, if you keep taking it over and over again, 5 cents here, 5 cents there, 5 cents here, even if it takes you 3 times to get into it, you're still giving up that 10 cents anyway. So you might as well just wait for the trigger above that and not have to worry about even just paying for the ticket charges. I mean, at the end of the day, either way, it kind of works itself out. But at the same time, I do not like spots like this. Okay, when it's just too damn close. And this trigger itself wasn't really that much to show us that it was going to be able to break. This one, though, right here, that popped up above, that's where I look for, to take something. What's the difference between the fake push up above before crash down? I'm not sure what you mean by that. What's the difference between the fake push up above before crash down? Difference in what, in terms of what? When it breaks consolidation similar to high. Okay, so the difference between that, Steve, so when that happens, most of the time it is a high of the day. If you look right here, we know that we still had the buying that was up above here. If you remember, there was some buying at 3, and there was also some buying around that 320 area from earlier this morning. So if this was, for instance, if it was a trigger above this 330, I don't like that trade. I'm going to trade a lot less shares than I normally would because of the fact that's typically where you see it. But we already have the information from previously that tells us that we need to come back up here. So that's the reason right there of why that makes it so much higher of a probability than high of day. And that's absolutely great question, Steve. All right, guys, and other than that, so BA we could talk about for a second. We know that we have the prints. We know that we need to get a big pull up from there. So 364, we had some really nice sell prints that came back in there. Remember, it trades, it's so funny, $7.37 as its average range, which is extremely ironic. But we know it needs to have a big pull up. So, we're coming to 36.8, $4 isn't really that much. I mean, it's only about half of what it typically trades throughout the day. So overall, I'm still going to be looking for it to come down and satisfy that selling underneath that 364 level. Other than that, did we have something else? Davis said PCG. Let's take a look. Lyft, we could definitely go over there. So PCGC, my problem is it's a beautiful trend, but this is just not a stock I'll trade. And the reason being is look at the volume. Volume's just too sporadic. And the problem with really sporadic volume, now overall, it's a lot easier to look at it right now in hindsight and say that it's a very controllable stock. But when you have volume that's this low and you go into these dips right here, a lot of times there's no volume. It actually breeds fear. And what ends up happening is that we end up just seeing some huge thing come into, a huge bar come into it, or huge selling, or people just literally bail out of it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's got beautiful prints here right at that 23 level that I just saw right there, which it didn't really pull. What time was that? 109. Yeah, so it didn't really pull back at all from. But it's just, unfortunately, volume's too sporadic and just too low for me to get behind it. But, for as an overall type trade, not bad. I mean, it looks beautiful. I think we saw this sighting from one afternoon. Okay, so absolutely. When we had that huge move that came back up. Oh, I got you there. Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what? I mean, I completely forgot that story's like 6 pages behind me in there. So yeah, do you know what the prints are? So we can, so everyone could write them down. I'm not sure. I don't, to be completely honest, I was, normally when I make a trade on a stock that I don't typically look at all the time, I forget about it in about, even if it takes the entire day. It was mixed at 23 that day. Okay, very interesting. So pushing back up to there, and we've just had some buying. So definitely something to look, especially if options maybe of the maybe more of a swing type trade. ABBV is the same type of deal. So I would have expected a lot more of a pullback from that 68 level, but guess what? All that happened was the buying came in. Now we're starting to see some selling coming back into that 70 level. I would not be shocked to see after hitting this resistance really get that pullback underneath 68. I just really haven't been watching it much all day. You could see, this is the thing. This is when I see a stock and when I look at a chart that looks like this, see how consolidated these bars are? I'm not a fan. If I can find a smooth trading stock compared to a consolidated stock, I'm going to trade the smooth stock all day long. I mean, obviously, it sounds pretty, it sounds extremely obvious, but it's just very consolidated within the way that it's trading. I mean, $2.50, beautiful volume overall, 15 million shares. It's certainly something, we'll put it on our list to keep, to keep our eyes on. But right now, we definitely have some selling. We had beautiful buying this morning. No. I can look back on my other chart where I have it and see, did we have anything earlier in terms of 69.50, a little bit of selling, a lot of selling, followed some ASO. So it looks like on this way up so far, we've seen some, some decent selling. It did have some buying at 70 as well. And then 69.98, 100,000 share print that came back in. But overall, actually, there's some real decent buying that's coming in at that 70 level. So Lyft, yes, Lyft. That's another one where, for me personally, it's just not a stock that I can trade and that's a stock that I would trade, but beautiful call. I mean, it's doing exactly what you said it would. And this is the second time that it's printed ask on that 65 level. So certainly showing that it wants more room above that 65. And then RAD is just pushing. I was going to say hell no, because I would never trade a stock like RAD for the most part, but you know what? It's looking pretty good. So we're going to have to see what comes up once if we do get to that 850 level. But remember that 8 really did. I mean, it pulled back 2 cents, and 2 cents, 5 cents I'd be okay with. 2 cents just isn't enough. So I'd just be a little bit careful with it. But if we get more buying at 850, and based off the personality that we're seeing, it's not going to have much of a pullback. There's no reason we can't see this thing try to push towards that 10 level. It's moved $1.50 today, which is just, look at the bar. You don't see these type of bars in a stock like RAD, too often at all. So we'll definitely put RAD on there, but it's also going to be willing on what we see at that 850, because the buying that we saw at 8.50 cents is as much as I would expect them to have to make. So anything over 50 cents, we need to see obviously more buying and more people coming in to show us that it's going to be able to go higher. But definitely, it looks beautiful. Overall, it's just, these stocks are a little bit hard to trade. And the reason I say that is because even when you get really great prints, a lot of times you don't really get the moves from it. So you really have to it's almost a lot of feel, and you just all of a sudden see that the stock is starting to actually get some traction and actually start moving. And you have to go based off of exactly how it's trading today and not how we usually would see it, because how we would usually see it is absolute garbage and nothing to really even think about looking at. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Anything else out there that I missed? IQ. So IQ, I was looking at before, and it was the same type of deal, just not really I mean, the volume's not terrible. It's just a very choppy with the way that it's moving. I mean, $2.15 is a huge move compared to what it usually does. But it's just, once again, I mean, it's a beautiful chart. I'm going to put it on the side list though, because the volume, like I said, the problem is, especially with my type, the way that I trade is that without consistent volume, if I was doing something overnight, I don't really care about having consistent being able to trade volume. But the thing with this is that once you actually get, like you can see, that you don't really get a great trigger, and even after you get that trigger, it takes a lot longer for it to get where it needs to go. So it makes things a lot harder. Okay, but overall, if you have the prints and you have everything else, and you're looking for more of a longer term type trade, these type of stocks are great for it. All right, guys. So I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.